This is the Dynasty Roundtable podcast. Tonight, we are going to be giving you advice on what to do with your rookie picks. The title of the episode is Trade Your Rookie Picks for These Players Now. And I guess that's good advice. We are about a month away from the NFL draft. And Matt Babich, I guess we should probably cover some fundamentals and how to handle rookie picks. Some people might know this kind of stuff already, but I think it's good to go over it. Typically, it is good to hold on to the rookie picks until the NFL draft, but sometimes we get offers that we just can't pass up for these rookie picks. And this class is kind of a little bit different than other classes that we've seen in the past, in the sense that a lot of people are looking down on it. So tonight, I think, is all about trying to figure out where can we gain some micro edges in trades in March and early April. So talk about that. How you doing? What's going on? It's a good day to talk Dynasty. Matt Babich.
It's another great day for sports. We're recording this on Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I didn't put on any green. I thought about changing my shirt, and I didn't end up doing that. But we have hockey on. We have the World Baseball Classic Championship coming up here in about 30 minutes. We have March Madness about to begin. We have the first 4 games that are tipping off tonight. It's bracket season, and we continue to inch closer to the NFL draft. It's a great time in sports because we're itching for football, and we keep getting, these amuse-bouches to what the ultimate entree is in sports season, and that is NFL football. And we get these appetizers that continue to roll out. NHL, we're about to have NHL playoffs. We have March Madness. The Masters is coming up soon. We have this World Baseball Classic. MLB regular season is about to start. It's a great time. We've had this lull in NFL, and right as this season starts to pick up, especially for Dynasty football with the rookie draft, we have all this stuff to keep us busy, because as we know in this space, a lot of the content can start getting repetitive right about now, especially between the combine and the NFL draft, because no new news really comes out. But yeah, excited to talk here about first round picks, trades we can potentially make. And, both of us want to start with, kind of a disclaimer on what it means to be trading your picks right now. You mentioned it early on. It's generally smarter to hold at the very least until we get to the rookie draft and you have the information from the NFL draft. And so we're going to preface all of this information by saying that it's generally smarter to hold on. Seth and I are going to be holding on to our picks unless we get that type of offer that we can't refuse. And as we'll go through the show, Seth and I kind of took 2 different approaches to our answers and did that on purpose. So Seth is leaning generally, especially in the top half, more towards the swinging up. And I think that's a very good strategy, particularly because what we see is when we actually get that information, despite us knowing that guys like Carnell Tate, Jordyn Tyson, Makai Lemon, going to be first round picks, most likely, going to go to favorable landing spots, most likely, and are going to rise in the rankings per keep trade cut, most likely. So a lot of these values that seem very different right now can drastically change, and likely will drastically change. And I kept things a little bit more tempered. I'm calling it more realistic just in terms of right now. But it's kind of 2 opposite ends of the spectrum where, as we get to the mid rounds, we have, hey, if you can get this player, like that's somebody we're willing to trade for right this second. As we get closer to the draft, maybe if some of these players don't get the landing spot or don't get the draft capital that we like, here are some other options that are a little bit closer to where they're ranked right now. So kind of 2 different sides of the spectrum that we're going to be giving you, just kind of giving you a range of the thought process that can go behind who you might be looking to trade for, and who around these players might also have a bad value, might also be undervalued in their own respect.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And let's just go ahead and kick this off with the 101. And according to Keep Trade Cut, that would be Jeremiyah Love, who's currently valued at the 19th player overall, RB4. And I'll just say this. I think having the 101 this year is you're in a really strong position because I think most people agree now that Jeremiyah Love is going to be a top 5 pick. I would say he's more likely to be a top 5 pick than not to be a top 5 pick. The rumor is that the Titans, they have their eye on Jeremiyah Love, drafting him at their draft position. And I want this pick really bad. And I would imagine a lot of people want this pick really bad. And you've probably earned this pick. So you want to maximize the value, whether that means you draft Jeremiyah Love or that if that means you trade it away. But you have to be patient. You have to really seek out all the possibilities. And for me, if I'm trading away this pick, and again, I want Jeremiyah Love on my team, but he is a running back. And if you're a rebuilding team, even a running back, a rookie running back, you might need more than just that in order to boost your rebuild. So you could view this as an opportunity to get a safer investment like a Lamar Jackson or Jayden Daniels, or you might want to get a package of players like, say, Emeka Egbuka plus. That's kind of where my head would be. But for my official answer, if you're trading the 101 straight up for one player, I'm going to look to those quarterbacks that didn't have a good year that I think are going to bounce back. I already mentioned Jayden Daniels, Lamar Jackson. You could probably get Jalen Hurts plus. I'm still a believer in Jalen Hurts. And if you want a package of players, I would base it around a really good young player with some upside. Like I already mentioned Emeka Egbuka, but there are some other guys out there too, like Omari and Hampton, for example. Like the package starts with one of those guys and then extends to, maybe Omari and Hampton plus Tyler Shuck. So you get a quarterback and a running back that can make a difference for you. But I think that's where the value of the 101 is this year. I think it's extremely high because people know that Jeremiyah Love is that guy. But those are my answers. What do you think, and what's your general opinion of trading the 101? Because if you have the 101, as I said, it likely means you have multiple needs, and taking a rookie running back is maybe not the solution to fill, multiple needs.
Yeah, so I have the same process around the 101. I have Fernando Mendoza as my 101 in Superflex. I have for a few weeks now, but regardless, completely agree with the thesis around Jayden Daniels. I think he's kind of the epicenter of what you'd be looking at there, especially in a Superflex league. No matter what your needs are, having a guy like that is going to help your lineup, short and long term. Now, if you're kind of contending somehow, even if you're mid-tier and you think you could be contending next year, I think Lamar Jackson is a potential option there. Caleb Williams and Lamar Jackson's a more insulated asset to where you make that move, your team doesn't play out the way you think it will. His value is going to stay, relatively insulated to where you can get back out of that if you want to. We saw what happened with Ashton Genty's value, playing on a bad team and not performing well year one as a running back. So if it's Jeremiyah Love you're looking at, what you could see is you have two different assets, Lamar Jackson, Jeremiyah Love. One has more risk in a productive struggle rebuilding mindset, but he also has a lot more insulated value than the other. Caleb Williams, potentially. I prefer Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams in that argument, but he's another guy ranked right next to Jayden Daniels from a quarterback perspective that you could be looking at. If you're mid-tier and truly desperate for a wide receiver, you have 3 to 4 running backs who you'd consider strong. I'd probably lean towards trading one of the other running backs away and taking a guy like Jeremiyah Love or Fernando Mendoza. But Malik Neighbors is a guy who at 22 years old, it's one of those assets where it's like, am I going to be screaming for you to make that trade? No, not necessarily. But depending on what the package looks like and what your team needs are, Malik Neighbors at 23 years old is an absolute superstar who it's one of those things where another value insulated asset to where I don't think you can necessarily go wrong. Pretty lower on the totem pole, just kind of trying to throw some ideas out there and get some thoughts going. And then if you're feeling dangerous, Ashton Genty, especially if it's the choice of Jeremiyah Love versus Ashton Genty, because you have Clint Kubiak in Las Vegas. They're going to have Fernando Mendoza. They just paid Tyler Linderbaum an absolute bag, reshoring that offensive line. If Jeremiyah Love goes to Tennessee, that could be a very eerily similar situation to Ashton Genty, where he doesn't perform as well in year one. And you have two situations, one known where Las Vegas is improving that situation, and one unknown where we have really no idea what's going to be happening to Tennessee over the next few years. So again, it's definitely the most risky option that we've thrown out there, but not one that I would be willing to necessarily discard on face value.
Yeah, and I was ready to disagree with you because I've said on multiple shows now that I would trade Ashton Genty for the 101. I would re-roll last year's 101 into this year's 101. But as more information has come out, and look at what the Raiders are doing, signing Tyler Linderbaum. They have an offensive head coach now, probably going to draft Fernando Mendoza. All of a sudden, the situation for Ashton Genty looks a hell of a lot better. And now the news, I thought Jeremiyah Love would slip in the draft a little bit to 6, 7, 8, where the Chiefs are picking, but the Chiefs go out and get Kenneth Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And now the buzz is that Jeremiyah Love is potentially headed to the Titans. If that happens, I have to admit that's not as good of a landing spot as, the Saints or the Commanders or the Chiefs. Like I thought that was the sweet spot for him, but it looks like NFL teams like him even more than I thought they would. And even though it's, I don't know, I think kind of insane to take a running back at pick 3. I just couldn't, Bijan went at 8, Jahmyr Gibbs went at
4,
12.
right?
I think Gibbs went at 12.
No. Yeah, 12. That's right.
12. I'm trying to think if there's
Richardson went 4 that year.
Yeah. Saquon went number 2 overall back in the day, but I'm trying to remember if there's been a running back in recent history that's been taken higher than, Bijan Robinson. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but at number 3 for a running back, it just feels really rich. And it just honestly wasn't something that I even considered as a possibility because of where Tennessee is as a franchise. But if that happens, I have to admit that I'm not as optimistic about Jeremiyah Love's initial impact. I mean, he could be in an Ashton Genty-like situation, especially if for some reason they want to run out Tony Pollard. There is some competition there. They did sign Tony Pollard. I don't have his contract pulled up right in front of me, but they did sign him in the not too recent past.
I would be surprised if they go Jeremiyah Love because they still have Spears and Pollard. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to me, but it would be the red flag, and that is why our overall emphasis on kind of waiting here until we get a little bit more information. Just because, I mean, if he falls and goes to a completely different situation, one that's much more friendly, that whole thesis, completely changes.
And then, we can make ourselves look silly about, considering landing spot too much. Just look at Emeka Egbuka last year, the target competition, you know what I mean? So I do have Jeremiyah Love ranked ahead of Ashton Genty in my dynasty rankings right now. So I still would make that trade, but it's closer today than it was when I was saying, oh yeah, no doubt about it. I would trade Ashton Genty for Jeremiyah Love straight up right now. Let's move to the 102, and that is Fernando Mendoza, 43 overall, QB 15. And, before we move on to the 102, sorry, something just occurred to me about the 101. I think if you need a quarterback, I think that this is a move that you can actually get done. The 101 for Justin Herbert in a super flex straight up. Who says no? If you're a quarterback needy team and you'd rather put the asset into the quarterback, Mike McDaniel with the Chargers now, that offense is going to be better. I think that that's a win for potentially both teams. I don't know. Like, I just think that might be a home run play that somebody I didn't mention. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Let us know what you think in the comments. Moving on to the 102, Fernando Mendoza, as we said, quarterback 15, 43 overall. And if you have this pick, I think you're sitting pretty. I know you missed out on the 101, but if there's a quarterback needy team in your league and you already have quarterbacks because you're a smart dynasty manager, then you've got some pretty good leverage in this rookie draft because Mendoza is the guy that a lot of people are going to be vying for. Maybe the only guy that's worth drafting in this class. I know some people are pushing Cole Payton. Haven't dug into the film yet, but he's an intriguing prospect. But really, Fernando Mendoza is the only one that's going to get for sure the draft capital, obviously number 1 overall, that we are looking for. And again, I would hold this pick hostage. I have down Omarion Hampton, Emeka Egbuka. I think Emeka Egbuka is probably a little bit more realistic. So, but again, I want to aim high. I also think Colston Loveland potentially, and only in a tight end premium league, although I think that, you could probably get Colston Loveland for a little bit less, but that's kind of the range of players that I would throw out there. Omarion Hampton, Emeka Egbuka, Colston Loveland. What are your thoughts? What players do you want in exchange for the 102?
So all this depends on the package. So, just apply that. I could say it every single time, or I could just say it now and allow the audience to remember that that's the case going forward. But I think 2 quarterbacks that you could pivot to are Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. San Francisco gets Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, who I think are both going to be great role players in that Kyle Shanahan offense. And Purdy's been proven that he could play at the elite level and an elite fantasy level, as has Jordan Love. I think there's questions, surrounding the supporting cast of Green Bay and whether or not that's going to be stable going forward. But I think Matthew Golden showed some promise towards the later end of his rookie season in terms of at least just being a role player, maybe not necessarily a fantasy asset. Christian Watson came back booming. Tucker Kraft's going to be out a while, but he's amazing. And so we have, 2 very stable coaching situations who have very good offensive mindsets in Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan. I agree fully on Emeka Egbuka. And then Kenneth Walker the third plus some extra on top could be pretty enticing if you're somebody who got a 102 1 or 2 years back and you're sitting at the middle or top of that table. If you're not needing a quarterback, if you took advantage of, like the Bo Nix value and you're sitting with Bo Nix, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, like got some value kind of guys in there and we're on top of an elite asset, I wouldn't mind getting some on top of Kenneth Walker and getting a running back who I think is going to be super explosive and used probably to the highest degree that he ever has been in Kansas City. So I really like that potential as well. If you're telling me Kenneth Walker the third straight up for the 102, I'm saying absolutely not. But if you can get some on top of that, I think that's something that's well worth exploring because I think this is going to be the best season he's had yet.
Yeah, I think there are going to be deals out there like that. You said Kenneth Walker for the 102. I think that's probably where he's going to be valued, and it's great because I have him on a lot of my teams. But good calls there. I do think like while Jordan Love and Brock Purdy are valued around the same place right now as Fernando Mendoza. I mean, this pick could also be a wide receiver too, and I think that could also be a point of leverage that you make. Like one of these wide receivers, whether it be Jordyn Tyson, Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate, probably either Tate or Tyson, have the profile of an elite producer and will probably get at least one of them get picked in the top 10. So just throwing that out there too. And if they get that draft capital and they get a situation where they are the number 1 wide receiver, then I think I'm making a point for holding on to the 102 until after the NFL draft, because I think that, you're going to have options there at the 102. And I think potentially you could get Jordan Love plus something, Brock Purdy plus something, but I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the mentality because I would still rather have, if I'm actually a 102 team, I would still rather have Jordan Love or Brock Purdy. Granted, I need quarterbacks over those other receiver assets.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love and Brock Purdy are starting NFL quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy just signed a 5-year extension not too long ago with Kyle Shanahan, so pretty safe asset to have. I mean, that there are worse moves out there than trading the 102 for Brock Purdy. I think it's a fine move to make. Let's move on to the 103. Officially, it's Carnell Tate. And in this range of the draft, my answer is pretty similar. So all the players that I threw out there for the 102 apply to the 103, probably to the 104 and 105 as well. But again, as you go down the list, just the optics of it, the 104, the 105, like obviously you don't get to pick your choice or take your pick of the elite wide receivers or if Mendoza falls, but that's who we're looking at in this range. So, I would throw out the same names, Amari Hampton, Emeka Egbuka, Colston Loveland in this range, but I'd also throw out some quarterbacks. And it's funny because I also have some quarterbacks listed that you mentioned, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love plus potentially, but I think straight up, I think is fair. Trevor Lawrence is another one, but my official answer is Bo Nix. And that especially got a little bit better, his value, I think, with the trade today. They essentially traded a first, pick 30 overall, I think a third and a fourth, got a fourth back for Jalen Waddle, which was a blockbuster move. I'm surprised we haven't talked about that yet, but Bo Nix is probably going to get, he'll probably get boosted a little bit because of this news, I would imagine, because now you have you have Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins in the backfield. Is pretty potent offense, I think, with Sean Payton calling plays. So I think Bo Nix for the 103 is fair. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. First thing I said to myself when I saw that was like Bo Nix might be like the perfect encapsulation of like a fair value list there for people who haven't been said yet. Same thought process for me, where pretty much everybody who I've said before is in play. I think somebody who right now the value is what I would say fair. Later down the line, if these picks increase to the degree that we think they might, it might turn into more of a plus situation. But I think Quinshon Judkins, if you want to pivot, if you need RB help, a guy who's 22 years old, a lead dog in that backfield and should be, ready for week one, albeit may start slow, given the type of injury he's sustained with the fractured fibula. But I think Quinshon Judkins is somebody who could be potentially in consideration. Again, he's kind of at the bottom of the barrel in terms of players I'd be considering. But if you're someone who's sitting with, young guys at receiver, you have a Malik Neighbors who went down, and you have some other young guys at receiver. Maybe you took Tet McMillan last year. You could be looking for potentially a running back in Quinshon Judkins in a running back class that's, relatively weak.
Yeah, I think that is a good point to make. You could target a running back if it all depends on team need too. If you at this 103 pick, if you need a running back, I think you could easily flip 103, 104, 105 into one of the elite running backs from last year's class, just depending on how the trade works out. Let's move down to the 104, and I don't really have much more to add. I think the case for trading away the 104, like the list of players would be relatively similar. Officially, I have down Trevor Lawrence, Colston Loveland. I've mentioned those two guys already. So what do you think for the 104, which according to Keep Trade Cut, the 104 is Makai Lemon, who's 55th overall, wide receiver 19.
So yeah, again, running theme of a lot of the same players that we're mentioning for some of these previous picks are in play. I added Chris Olave. I prefer Jordyn Tyson to Chris Olave. I do not prefer Makai Lemon to Chris Olave. But Jordyn Tyson to Chris Olave for me is very tight. So if that ranking does not apply to you, then that's somebody who you can explore from a value perspective. I have an interesting take here, though. This is where I start saying that maybe we can start looking to tier down. Again, this is after the rookie draft because we don't want to tier down before our rookie picks go up in value. So now is not the right time to be tiering down. But on draft day, if you're an early candidate, if you're the 104, there's a lot of range of possibilities as to what put you there. You could have been a team that's a productive struggle, kind of ready to compete, had some injuries and some bad luck. There's a numerous. You could have been a contending team that traded for this pick 1 to 2 years back, and I think Dak Prescott is just too undervalued continuously. He's still at the range where he probably has 3 more years. I mean, that's just when he's like 35 years old. And we've seen guys like Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers put up usable weeks in their late 30s, 40s. So I think there's a lot of reasons why Dak Prescott could be undervalued. If we're talking just purely Makai Lemon at the 104, I'd be willing to trade down 1 pick if I can guarantee that it's going to be Makai Lemon at the 104 and I can get Jordyn Tyson at the 105. And then Rashee Rice is another guy who I think is undervalued just because of how his season played out last year with starting off, suspended and then Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. All signs point to Mahomes coming back near, if not at week 1. And in that event, I don't see why Rashee Rice is not ranked very similarly to where he was last year. So I'd be open to that move as well.
Yeah, I know that there is something around like he has to anyway, I don't know if he's served his jail time yet. I'm not 100% caught up on that story or where it is, but obviously there's now domestic abuse allegations, which is horrible. But again, it's the NFL, and at times it feels like Roger Goodell is using the random wheel of justice on different teams, different players, and who knows what's going to happen. I will admit to you that Rashee Rice's value has gotten to a point now where I'm kicking the tires a little bit. Just, I know it's a huge risk because potentially who knows what could happen. He could be suspended again, whatever the case might be. But yeah, I think at the 104, I don't know if you need to pay the 104. And I agree with you.
It'd be Rashee Rice plus for sure. Like you're getting a future pick on top of that. And that's the thesis. Like if I'm a rebuilding team and my options are Makai Lemon and Jordyn Tyson, I'm good kicking the tires on Rashee Rice and getting another prospect or another pick involved than just trying to load up my assets.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. A fair take. And I agree with you too that Jordyn Tyson would be my 104. So if this pick is Makai Lemon and I have the 105, I am, I'm just doing cartwheels. And the 105, let's just assume it's Makai Lemon because we would both take Jordyn Tyson. My official answer would be Chris Olave because I would value Chris Olave in his situation over Makai Lemon coming into the league. But Makai Lemon is somebody I want to earmark because I think that there is a chance, like if I had to pick one of those 3 wide receivers to get off to a slow start, it might be Makai Lemon just because he primarily plays in the slot. Situation is going to be very important to him. We've seen wide receivers with a similar skill set get off to slow starts before, like JSN. I'm not saying he is JSN, but I am saying that kind of wide receiver, sometimes it takes them a little bit to get going. Now you also have Puka Nacua who just hit right away. But again, Makai Lemon to me could be the guy that struggles right out of the gate and is probably going to be the guy that's taken a little bit later in the draft if I had to guess, but I could be wrong. So again, Chris Olave for me, just because I'm assuming Jordyn Tyson isn't there. But what do you think? I know you've got some of the same names written down, but what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I have a similar mindset once again. I'll reiterate Rashee Rice. I think Jalen Waddle is an interesting name to throw out there with the trade that just happened, him going to Denver. I think his profile fits very well with Bo Nix's skill set and Sean Payton's offense. Excuse me. So I think he's a name to be considering there. Again, especially if that's Makai Lemon instead of Jordyn Tyson, I think that's amplified for me. And then reiterating, Dak Prescott. I think Tucker Kraft's an interesting name, especially in a tight end premium league. Who the injury is the biggest concern there. But I think getting an elite tight end at his age could be a nice positional advantage when we have receivers that we love come into the draft every single year. And I don't love this pick, but I'm interested in exploring what I can get on top of Sam Darnold. Like how much, if I'm a quarterback needy team at 105, and like this obviously isn't the quarterback class for me, 28 years old, what could I get on top of Sam Darnold for Jordyn Tyson? I don't think it's necessarily the most realistic thing to pull off in terms of getting equal value, but I'd be very curious to see what I could potentially get on top of him, because I do think that there's still a little bit of people who still equate him to the mononucleosis and seeing ghosts, despite 2 really solid seasons out of him. I think there's still a little bit of value left for Sam Darnold to capture.
I would hope that those people are, you know, in the minority these days because of the Super Bowl that he just won. But
I mean, his keep trade cut value is pretty good for that being the case.
yeah, he's never really been a super reliable fantasy quarterback. I think he's more of a in that system. He's really good, but
he's
I see
streaky
what
for
you're
sure. And then
saying.
Clinton Kubiak leaving is very
Yeah.
different. And again, you know, some of these names I threw in there just to kind of start a conversation. So I'm not super bought into it, but
yeah, you would need to, like, for Sam Darnold to be a part of this package. I don't think Sam Darnold would be the best player in my opinion, because Sam Darnold's 71st overall quarterback, 19. Man, I would probably prefer some other quarterbacks in the range of the value. I would have him valued a little bit lower. But if you got
or if you can
Sam
get like
Darnold,
Tyler Shuck and a good future pick out of that, like
see Shuck, I would be more into that just because of the rushing upside. But like if it's and it could be just a small move, like tearing down, and I get it, like going from the 105 to the 106 is a pretty big teardrop, although I would argue that, and I'm about to make the case here in a little bit, that it's not as massive of a teardrop as there is in some other places in this draft. And I think that the 106 and 107 are going to be really good picks to have. But you would need to get something on top of, a Sam Darnold, and significant. But like,
yeah, if you traded back in the first round from the 105 and then swapped, maybe you have Stafford and you swap Sam Darnold for Stafford with a win now asset. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities where that's kind of why I have him included, where it's just like, he's just someone who I think is undervalued, to where if somebody is trying to move off of him and there is a possibility to explore some sort of trade package that might make sense, you know, maybe not. He's a quarterback you consider, but I think as I was going through that, and you have Shuck here in this next category, like that's a quarterback where, yeah, I would prefer getting him in a trade package.
Yeah, and what I was getting at is, you know, maybe you just tear down slightly. Like maybe you go from, maybe that is the guy that you get for going from the 105 to the 106. Is, could you get Sam Darnold to make that move? Like if you could, then
I would do that every day of the week. That'd be incredible.
I know, and because you're not getting your choice of the elite guys, you're probably drafting Makai Lemon there, which I like Makai Lemon, but I don't think the difference between Makai Lemon and a Kenyon Sadiq or a Casey Concepcion is galaxies and universes. So and let's get to the 106. So it's Kenyon Sadiq, and this is a teardrop, but again, it's not as severe, or it's not as severe of a teardrop as it is because I think some people are pretending like the draft ends at 105 in this rookie class, and then it's like, well, guys, there's just a bunch of dart throws that we're gonna be making from the 106 to the, whatever, through the 5th round. But Kenyon Sadiq, I think, is a really good player, but I personally would have Casey Concepcion ranked here, and I from what I've seen of Casey Concepcion, the dude can flat out play and he can get open. Like when I was taking notes, I just kept on writing Casey Concepcion's open again. He's open again, and playing at Texas A&M, I find that really impressive. And I would throw out Tyler Shuck. If you're a win now team, if you got unlucky and you got stuck with the 106, Saquon, maybe. I do think Saquon's a good buy for a win now team. So those are the two names that I would throw out there. But I would, like, if you need a quarterback and there's no quarterbacks in this rookie class, I also wouldn't necessarily have a problem with Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, if you're more of a win now team. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I love the call on the quarterbacks. Jalen Waddle again here for me, especially with where the receivers that are left on the board, including Kenyon Sadiq at tight end. I prefer the prospect of Jalen Waddle. I think there's two different thought processes there, where even if you're at the 106, if you're realistic and saying, hey, the 108 through the 112 are all very, very good teams, and I'm not 100% sure this year or next year is going to be quite truly my year. Like, I'm still playing a little bit more of a longer term runway, then Waddle being at 27 years old isn't necessarily my favorite look there. But guys like Travis Etienne, I guess it is. It's now that. I'm gonna have to take his word for it because it certainly doesn't look like that. But I guess it is a French name, and I've seen some people saying that from a French perspective that that pronunciation makes phonetic sense. So Travis Etienne, that'll be tough to get used to. And then Bashul Tutin with Etienne. Now I'm gonna hesitate every single time because I'm gonna want to say ETN. But without Etienne in the backfield there, I think Tutin is the one that takes over. I think the Chris Rodriguez signing, unless you're from Establish the Run, is the clear signal that Bashul Tutin is going to be handling a large workload this year. I make that reference because they said that Chris Rodriguez was going to be the bell cow back for Jacksonville, and I love their work. I think they're sharp guys, but I think that's ridiculous. But I think Bashul Tutin's another guy to look at. I think you're probably looking at plus again. As of right now, no, based on the value. But I think when push comes to shove, when we get to the end of the rookie draft, it will be Bashul Tutin plus, and that's why I have him under consideration here as well.
Yeah, I think as we get closer and closer to the season starting, the buzz around Bashul Tutin is only going to get stronger and stronger. And we've seen it already. I mean, if you go to Keep Trade Cut, I'm pretty sure he's up like 30 spots. Yeah, he's up like 27 spots. When I recommended buying him in one of my videos, he was at 123 or 122. And I only think the noise is going to get louder and louder because, again, he's only 23 years old. The reason why he didn't play as much last year is because of Travis Etienne. And I think off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that there are 300 some touches that are being vacated by Travis Etienne, or that might be targets plus carries. I'm not exactly sure, but the workload for Travis Etienne last year was insane. And the fact that they're bringing in Chris Rodriguez and that's it, maybe they draft somebody, but again, it's a weak RB rookie class. Some people might be thinking, man, this is crazy that you trade the 106 for Bashul Tutin. And I do think that that's on the lower end of the value right now. Like you said, I don't think you would have to make this trade. But if you did make the trade, hypothetically, like people would be calling you crazy right now. But at the start of the 2026 season, when Bashul Tutin is in the top 70, 60 players on Keep Trade Cut, it's looking like a pretty good move, probably. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals. Let's move to the 107, and this would be Kenyon Sadiq for me, but it's Casey Concepcion, according to Keep Trade Cut, who's valued at player 109, wide receiver 38. And for me, I think it would be interesting to – this is where I would feel comfortable taking a risk, right? If I had the 107, let's say I miss out on Casey Concepcion. What's the Brian Thomas Jr. manager thinking these days? I mean, I get it. Brian Thomas Jr. is ranked way ahead of the 106, but like, what's it going to take to get Brian Thomas Jr.? Could I put a package together around the 107 to go get BTJ? Or probably more realistically, I'm thinking the tight ends around this range, like Sam Laporta or Kyle Pitts. What about Travis Hunter? I'll talk about Travis Hunter a little bit later. I don't know if you would need to give up the 107 for Travis Hunter, but again, I'm looking for some upside. And I think that if I need to fill a tight end, this might be a good pick to have just in terms of value or taking a risk. And also throw out a name here, and this might completely derail the show. Is this about where you would think about trading for Kyler Murray and taking a risk on Kyler Murray at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, this is close to. I almost put him here a few times, but this is close to the range where you're going to be looking at him. I mean, the further,
Especially because there are no quarterbacks in this rookie draft
yeah.
other than Mendoza.
I mean, the closer you get to the 112, I mean, the more I'm going to be pounding the table for making a move like that, just because it's a rich get richer type of thing, you know. Why take a risk on a low end first round prospect when you can take a chance on a starting quarterback for like Kyler Murray, who's probably going to be starting here. The one time I put out in the universe literally one time that I would be potentially willing to trade for JJ McCarthy and buy the dip. And Kevin O'Connell, that someone called Kevin O'Connell and he said, "Wait, Matt Babbage said what? Matt Babbage is in potentially on J." No, that's a signal. It's over. We got to get someone else in here. But Kyler Murray is going to be starting for this team. I mean, I'm almost sure of it. You don't go and make that move if you plan on sitting him for JJ McCarthy. At the very least, it's going to be a competition to start the year. So yeah, I like the prospects of that. I have Waddle and Tootin again. I have Pearsall added to the list. Excuse me again. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and let's move to the 108. And a lot of these we're gonna mention the same names because I do think it's in the same range of value. So the 108 is Denzel Boston, according to Keep Trade Cut, 139th overall, which I think is a little crazy. Wide receiver 54. And again, I'm going to throw out Travis Hunter. That's my official answer for this one. I think that this is the point where I would be willing to take that risk. I'm not a huge Denzel Boston fan, although he's probably going to get drafted in the first round. And also, I don't know what the market is for AJ Brown, but the 107, the 108, that might be worth kicking the tires on an AJ Brown if you're a win now team, because who knows where he's going to wind up. We know he's likely not going to be with the Eagles. If he winds up with the Patriots, this could be a player that increases his value even as a 28-year-old wide receiver. So what are your thoughts on the 108?
Yeah, so Travis Hunter, I think I'm a little bit more towards the 110 to 112, but it also just depends on your team aspect. You know, like you could be a 108 that's a very competitive team that just got unlucky with some injuries last year. So it all depends on your team makeup. I'm going to be, on a broader scale overall, I'm going to be more comfortable taking that risk later on. This is where I'll insert Kyler Murray more comfortably towards the end of this round. Tight ends, I think Jake Ferguson's also undervalued from what he can do in that Cowboys offense. We don't see any competition coming his way anytime soon. He was the tight end 1 overall for a good portion of last season. So I'll throw him out there. It's not as sexy of a turnaround, but somebody who on name value, like 108 for Jake Ferguson, I think the Jake Ferguson owner is hitting that every time. And you could potentially get more out of that despite Ferguson being ranked above 139 overall right now.
I just on the surface, I'd have to get more than Jake Ferguson, but I understand.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't take it for Jake Ferguson plus, but I think you can get Jake Ferguson plus despite the rankings not saying that at the moment.
Gotcha. 109 is very similar to the 107 to 109, but it is Omar Cooper Jr., 141st overall, wide receiver 55 on Keep Trade Cut right now. And my answer is a player that we've taken turns bashing on this show, more so because we like Kenneth Walker more than anything else. And that's Zach Charbonnet. According to Sports Illustrated, I just pulled up this quote, so bear with me. If it was up to Zach Charbonnet, he probably would have just braced it up and played in the last 2 games. He's a true pro. He's so strong and his work ethic is outstanding. The surgery went very well and the outlook is good. I'm sure he's going to attack his rehab like he does, like anything else he does. That's John Schneider on the GM on Zach Charbonnet. Now, I know a GM is not going to, he's only going to have good things to say about his players, but Kenneth Walker gone, the entire Dynasty community is looking at Kenneth Walker over here. But Zach Charbonnet's still over here, and I'm looking at keep trade cut right now. I don't know. I mean, he's outside the top 100 at RB25, 103 overall. I know that's not where this pick is valued, but I think that there's a world where you could get that trade done. Any rookie pick in this range, 107, 108, 109. Again, this is a weak RB class. If you need a running back, I think Charbonnet, he might miss some time at the beginning of the season, but the Seahawks have chosen their man, whether you want to agree with it or not, and he's going to get even more opportunities, you would think. So I would throw him out there as a buy, and I think the 109 is, most people would consider that as fair value, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not as in on that. Just I don't love the talent, and just coming off of an ACL tear late in the season is troubling for me, especially on a rebuilding or on a contending team where I'm looking for production now. I tend to believe that Seattle's going to throw a dart at a running back that's going to have a runway of opportunity to start the year. And that's dangerous for a guy like Zach Charbonnet because he can end up walking right back into the situation that he's in or that he was in this year. I have the same guys here. Just actually deleted him from the list, but I'll throw out Tyler Algier just because, yeah, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I think James Conner is going to be poking his head around year one of this Tyler Algier experiment before he goes to dust. I think Trey Benson is, still have draft capital tied to him. He has somewhat of an opportunity there. So I'm gonna take that back before I officially put it back out there. But it's pretty much the same set of players for me. These players are back to back, essentially in the rankings and keep trade cut.
All right, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna group these next three picks together because I do think that they're very, very similar in value.
Mm-hmm.
So the 110 is Jadarian Price, 149 overall, RB 34, according to Keep Trade Cut. The 111 is Ty Simpson, 156 overall, QB 30, according to KTC. And then Jonah Coleman at 187, RB 44. And this at this stage in the draft, you went pretty far into the playoffs, if not, you won your league last year. So as a dynasty manager, I'm looking for creative ways to try to extend my window. And somebody like Ty Simpson or Jadarian Price is probably not going to help me win now. So I'm really, these are the picks that I would be open to moving. And I know this year they might be kind of hard to move, but if you're looking to get out, maybe like a DeAndre Swift or a DJ Moore, you might have to add something to that potentially, but I think that's in the realm of possibility. A young player that I would throw out there that I think is a buy for me is Matthew Golden, and it might cost a little bit more than the 110 through the 110, 111, 112, but Romeo Doubs is now a Patriot and they've freed up some targets there, so you just never know. But probably more realistically are guys like Matthew Stafford, Derrick Henry. And I'm not saying that this would be the only thing that you would have to give up, or I'm not saying like you would get something on top of Matthew Stafford potentially. You would maybe get something on top of Derrick Henry potentially for a first round rookie pick, even a 110, 111, 112. But in this range, those are the kinds of players that I'm looking to target to extend my window, knowing that I'm probably taking a dart throw, like if I need a quarterback, I don't want to bet. Like, I don't necessarily think that these picks are dart throws, but Ty Simpson to me would be a dart throw at the quarterback position, if that makes sense. So being in that position as a win now team is a little bit different. And so that would make me more apt to bet on a Derrick Henry or a Matthew Stafford. But again, I don't think that you would need to give up or I don't think that you would get more in return is what I'm trying to say, than just Matthew Stafford. Maybe it's a trade up or a trade down and Matthew Stafford's in that picture. But what are your thoughts here in this range, 110, 111, 112? Who are you trading those picks for?
So I love where your head's at here. I completely agree with everything you said. I think an interesting name that sounds disgusting could be Tua. We've seen him perform.
You're gonna make if
I'm gonna
49
do
minutes in, you're gonna make everybody rage quit the show.
I'm gonna do it, and that's fine. Feel free. But we've seen him perform in good offenses, and you could argue that this situation is better than his previous one. He goes to a better offensive line. He goes to who I consider to be on par from an offensive scheme perspective to his previous coach in Kevin Stefanski. And instead of basically only throwing to Jalen Waddle and an aging, slow, doesn't care Tyreek Hill, to Drake London, Kyle Pitts, having a backfield with Bijan Robinson, I think there's a lot to like about this potential situation. And we're talking about a late first round draft pick for a guy who's probably going to be the starter the entire season unless something goes catastrophically wrong, which is very possible with Tua. But if my options at quarterback, particularly if we're talking about the 111 and Ty Simpson, if my options are Ty Simpson or Tua, I'll take Tua any day of the week. And you're probably going to be able to get Tua plus a decent amount. And that's the other part of the narrative, is where I can get more assets, whether it be a second round pick, a future pick, another prospect, another veteran. Like, there's a chance you might have to throw a little bit of something in there. And I'm not sure how the value would shake out off the top of my head. There's a chance you can get Tua and Derrick Henry from a rebuilding team. Somebody who needs to completely reset. And they take Ty Simpson or they take Jonah Coleman, and you get Tua and Derrick Henry, and you just hope that one of them pans out. So I think it sounds disgusting, but sometimes these disgusting trades end up being the ones that we need to make because everyone's so out on them. Clearly they saw something in him worth taking a shot on, and he's in a decent situation. So, the one thing Tua needs is time under center, and I think he can get that much more so than he did in Miami this year. And so I hate it, but it's there, and it's cheating a little bit, but this is also the area where I would start to look at next year's first round picks. If I can re-roll and get a first round pick next year and try for, a stronger class and somebody who I'm not looking at, Denzel Boston, Jadarian Price, who I don't hate, or Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper Jr., depending on how their draft shakes out, plus Ty Simpson and Jonah Coleman, I'd be interested in trying to re-roll for a next year's pick as well.
Yeah, I've already gotten a few offers, that exact offer, like the 110 for next year's first, offered to me. Like, they will give me their rookie pick this year for next year.
Especially if it's somebody overconfident in what their team build is. If you have somebody at the 109, 108 who you think got a little lucky and can't compete with the big dogs, I'd be willing to take their first round pick and try again.
Do you think Tua is a lock to start? Do you think he's going to be the starter, or do you where would you put the odds on that right now? Like,
I feel bad that I don't. I feel bad that I don't know, but Kirk is Kirk still there?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I didn't want to say that he was there and get shit on. I would say it's at least 60-40 Tua. It's not going to be Penix or Penix. That's what we know for a fact. So,
do we know that for a fact?
There's no shot he's going to be ready for week 1, right?
Oh, from an injury perspective. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
So I think it's his job to lose, and Penix has been awful. So if Tua goes out there and they're winning games or they're competitive, he's gonna have to blow it up in order to get benched. And again, in a super flex league, if I can trade for somebody who's going to be the quarterback 15 plus, on a weekly base, has that potential even in that offense to be a top 12, top 10 quarterback on a weekly basis, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to risk him getting benched. I'm willing to risk it get blown up just because I know Ty Simpson's not going to, he shouldn't be a starter early on. And if he is, I probably don't want to trust him. And then we're looking at guys like Jonah Coleman and Jadarian Price, who could be very well like an RJ Harvey or a Caleb Johnson, like people who take a year plus to get going, if they get going at all in their rookie years. So I'm willing to take that risk. And Kyler's in this range too, right? Like if I can pull that off, like Kyler's another option to consider.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've done the impossible. Some thought it was impossible, talking about Tua for 10 minutes of the show, Ty Simpson as well. Between Tua and Kyler Murray, man, that was a big portion of the show there. But anyway, thank you for watching. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel. Matt Babbage, any final words of wisdom? Oh, yeah, comment. Let us know what you think of these picks, or let us know who you're trading your rookie picks for. Let us know the trades you've already made in the comments as well. I will do better at getting back to the comments. I've been god awful at responding to comments. It's been on my to-do list for a long time, but I need to move that up. Anyway, Matt Babbage, words of wisdom for the people tonight.
I would say, I'm making this up on the spot, but I would say stay hopeful. It's a weird time that we're living in, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. I'm sure you've gone to the pump lately and you've seen, gas prices go up. We're in the middle of a war. Things are very weird. But hope is all we have left. Hope that things are going to get better, and hope that we can be, more unified as a people. And so, no matter what happens, no matter how things get, this is why we have our little escape here with fantasy football. But just as hard as it may be at times, just try not to, and I fail at this as well, but just try not to let those things get you down, because the more hopeful and unified we can remain as peers and as a country, the better things can get. So I know things are weird. It's very uncertain times we live in. There's AI, these AI overlords like Sam Altman who have no soul, are trying to take our jobs. There's never been anybody less soulless than Sam Altman, barring maybe Peter Thiel. But stuff like that, it dominates the news cycle nowadays, because rage gets clicks, it gets views, and that's what they're programmed to show us all the time. So just know that the average person has a lot more in common than what the news or what social media want you to think. And the more unified we remain, and the more friendly, the more hopeful we remain with each other, the better things, the better chance we have at things getting better in the future.
I think that's very well said. I think there are a coalition of people trying to break us apart and make us angry at each other all the time. And there's really no need for that. I mean, we all have our differences, but we have a lot more in common than you think. Anyway, I think that's well said. And let us know what you think in the comments. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the places. TikToks, go to the TikTok. Nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, people should care more about our TikToks than Aaron Rodgers these days, let me tell you. And until next time, be good, everybody, and we will see you later.